Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to an all new World of Warships gameplay today on our channel. In this episode we shall be setting sail in our newly acquired Tier 7 Russian destroyer known as the Kiev. We're in a Tier 9 match on the map Shatter in a domination game type. We're not sailing alone today but joined by our good friend Callum in his Tier 8 Japanese destroyer known as the Fubuki. The emphasis of today's gameplay is going to be on something that can happen quite regularly to destroyer players in particular. Whether you have recently acquired a ship of a destroyer class, alternatively you are playing a ship that you absolutely love within the destroyer class and you're just having a bad day, alternatively you are not thinking straight. And that is, you make an opening play and it costs you almost all of your health, usually leaving you at 25% of your hit points or less. Now for reference, our Kiev is not in fully upgraded condition. We only have the range upgrade for our three 130mm twin cannon turrets, extending our range out to 12.3 kilometers. And as a result, this portrays one of my earlier games in the Kiev where I was trying to get used to its playstyle. And I personally thought that this ship would play out as more of an advanced Ognavoy, i.e. the predecessor Russian destroyer at Tier 6. Oh, how wrong was I. As whilst this ship can be quite similar, it has some rather remarkable and distinct traits compared to the Ognavoy. For one, as a destroyer it has a concealment factor which is rather poor. It is detected at sea at a distance of 9 kilometers. This means this is going to be one of the earliest destroyers you will detect. In fact, at its tier, it stands out like a sore thumb compared to the other destroyers at its tier. But, against this, it has a top speed without the usage of a speed boost or speed flags of 42.5 knots. This is a very fast destroyer. And with a speed boost, this extends its speed up to 46 knots. As a result, we are making a play very similar to what we would do in our Ognavoy right now due to our inexperience, and that is we are rushing towards A. Callum is sailing alongside us. We've started off in the northwestern spawn with our team taking the northern section of the map to start off with, and we're charging towards A. Our logic being that we can use our top speed in order to get in there and take the objective. But our 9 kilometers of detectability is going to really hurt us early on, and we're about to see that. Wait for it. As we just get a little bit closer to A before we can even get into the capture circle, we get spotted. The entirety of the enemy fleet, or at least the vast majority, have gone this way. And we are being detected by a Hatsuharu, and notice how close we had to get before we could spot them compared to how close they had to be to spot us. Now we do a good amount of damage with high explosive here, but watch our health bar. It is already down to less than 50%. We are taking hits like wildfire right now. We are getting hit so bad we're now down to less than 20% of our health. We're just over 10% of our health. We have taken a lot of hits from the two Tirpitz, most likely one from the Legato, and indeed from the enemy Rune, the Tier 9 German cruiser. This has not gone well. We have done, to be fair, just shy of 5,000 damage to the enemy Hatsuharu, but it was not worth the trade. And they fired off some torpedoes, which we're now going to dodge. We positioned ourselves not to be broadside to the Hatsuharu because we guessed they may be firing off their torpedoes with their extended range. And we dodged the torpedoes and fortunately moved ourselves to the point where we actually dodged a load of armor piercing shells from the enemy Rune, who sprayed them into the smoke screen quite intelligently. Now we have taken A alongside Callum. He decided to move into the objective to take it faster, and that way we could get out of it, and we need to get out of it because look at our health state. But before we can do, we are spotted once again from the enemy Hatsuharu most likely, who made their way westwards, and this means that the enemy Rune has got another clear shot on us. Indeed, all the battleships south of us have a clean shot on us. This is really not going well, as we put some shots into the Rune, which are compensation for the damage we have taken, but by no means are going to make up for the damage we have taken. We're still being detected. To be fair, we fired off some shots, so we deserve to be detected at this point. And we're dodging shots left, right and centre here as we use our speed boost to keep up our speed as we wiggle left and right. But unfortunately our wiggling was not good enough. The Rune scored some more hits and we are now down to 2.5% approximately of our total health pool, which, when not upgraded with the upgraded hull, is 11,200. This is bad. We have lost in the opening 3.5 minutes of the game almost all of our health. If we get close enough to an enemy cruiser or an enemy battleship right now, one hit from their secondaries will be enough to take us out. They need to just sneeze on us. What can we do? Well, we're going to answer that. And essentially, we need to reset mentally and on the map. We need to think right. We didn't play very well when we charged in, we wasted our ship, so what can we do to compensate for it? Well, we're going to play in the middle of our team. Now this is not going to be a team effort, we're not going to be making some mass communication with our teammates, or alternatively even with our colleague over TeamSpeak. We are just going to play in the back row of our team. Reason being, we have the range in our armament to act as a mini cruiser, if you will. 12.3 kilometers is respectable. Not as far reaching as say the 15.4 kilometers or 15.6 kilometers on the tier 7 Japanese cruiser, the Miyoko, but it is enough. And with a little bit of terrain usage as we move in towards the centre of the map, being now in a north-northwest position, and with our decent gun arcs, so long as we sit a little bit further back from the island masses, we can shoot over the island masses. We can do some good damage to the enemy battleships in particular, setting the Nagato on fire and accreting a good amount of damage on their ship before they put the fire out. We continue to throw shots over here, and we make a small mistake of not using the follow shot capability, i.e. zooming in on our shot, to see where they are landing relative to the Nagato's chosen sailing path. If we had done, we may have picked up some additional hits here. As you're going to see, we missed temporarily before we start to score a couple more hits. This was a small mistake, but we have assisted in bringing the Nagato down, as they are now on the very last drips of their health, and we can see they are trying to repair, but it's not going to be enough, as a fire takes them out. Now we've become undetected once more, so that goes to show that the Nagato was the only ship spotting us. And we continue to look towards the centre of the map. Now our team are gradually making their way. The majority of our teammates, including the Tirpitz and North Carolina and Calaminis Fubuki, are gradually making their way towards A. It is a hotly contested area at the moment, so we are sitting between A and B, i.e. just north of both objectives, to try and provide sniping support, fire support at long range. We can see our friendly Atlanta is trying to press towards B, but very gradually. The enemy team have captured B and are really holding on to it fiercely. We cannot afford to go forward for the time being. Indeed, we are playing to the enemy team's thought process here, which is, we crippled that Kiev, it is out of the game. And we're putting ourselves out of the game, or at least making it look as though we are. Because typically destroyers would be up the front or trying to sneak around the enemy ships by heading round to the flanks. The enemy Benson is revealing itself, just providing a little bit of harassment fire to our teammates, and at the same time keeping our teammates lit up for the battleships that are in the south. But at this point, notice an enemy York coming onto B, and this is why we want to be in a position to support our Atlanta in the centre of the map. The York is going to contest the Atlanta here, and in the process present their broadside to our Tirpitz back in A. Now we're going to provide some additional fire support on the York. It may only account for a couple hundred HP, it may account for 10,000 HP, it does not matter. We are bringing our gunners to bear and providing what support we can. Building up a little bit of damage, taking out anti-aircraft batteries, secondaries, whatever, we're just helping out. And with the York taking a nasty set of broadside hits from our friendly Tirpitz, they're now eliminated thanks to our Atlanta. And at this point this means our Atlanta can now begin to make their way towards B, with the enemy Hatsuharu from earlier now heading off of B and heading back towards the western side of the map. Now here we again make a slight misplay. We could have been a little bit more confident here. We could have gathered that the Hatsuharu would be interested in Calaminis Fubuki, and we could have moved forward and got into a position where leading our shots onto the enemy Hatsuharu would have been easier. We try nonetheless and we fall well short here, although we had the shots online, as we can see. So we start to make our shots a little bit further in terms of their advancement at lead, and at the same time we try to make our way forward. But we're not very good at long distance, even with the decent muzzle velocity of 130mm cannon here, of being able to drop shots onto speeding destroyers. We try nonetheless, and our teammates take out the Hatsuharu, our Tirpitz does in particular. And now that we have A, we begin to be able to put an anchor on the map. We begin to lay the foundations for our team to be able to take on the enemy team. As at the start, the enemy team, to be fair, had the advantages, were really in a strong position, and had all 3 capture circles at a given point. But now it is our time to get back in there and strike. So we become undetected, but what that confirms to us is most likely the enemy Benson is lingering south of A, and as a result is providing visibility still. So we can use that knowledge to our advantage here. And we can see on the minimap that an enemy Tirpitz is making their way across B right now, in the centre of your screen. Callum at this point is going to throw down some torpedoes to do the maximum possible damage to the Tirpitz, while we in the meantime are just going to spray high explosive at them, and we lay down our smoke screen and sit still in it so that way we will not be detected. We are using our resources to our advantage, our remaining smoke screen, and we set a fire on the Tirpitz. We're going to knock off a good amount of health at this point, and we're just doing what we can to reduce the Tirpitz's health pool so that potentially Callum's torpedoes will completely finish it off. Alternatively, our Atlanta will be able to finish it off with the risk of a lower number of salvos than the Tirpitz being able to hit them. So we're trying to help keep our teammates alive just by providing that sustained fire. We get a good number of hits in, and the Tirpitz is practically crippled at this point. We continue to fire in our shells as they put the fire out. We're hoping to set another fire. Unfortunately nothing so far. With our reload rate of a barrage every 5 seconds, we can continue to drop the shells quite noticeably and quite rapidly. Callum opens fire with his guns as well. We take out other torpedo tubes permanently, and our friendly Tirpitz, from position of A, takes them out. And now another enemy Tirpitz makes their way south of A, heading more towards the western side of the map, and again we're in the perfect position behind a small island and in our smoke screen to be undetected. But as the enemy Tirpitz makes their way past a significant landmass which we cannot shoot over easily, we decide, right, the enemy Tirpitz is going to be focused on our Nagato, which is very close to them. Alternatively, they have their guns pointed towards, I believe it is our own Tirpitz, so we have the ability to come out here within the range of the Tirpitz's main guns and fire without the risk of being shot back at. Indeed, our friendly Tirpitz knocks them out, as we picked up a little bit more damage. So now we can feel a little bit happier in ourselves. We brought our damage count up to 29,310. We're doing rather well. And we're starting to build up our confidence, and now we can change tact. Notice how our team has the majority of the ships remaining compared to the enemy team. This is heading into our favour, although we need to take a central objective so that way we can begin to build points more quickly than the enemy team, in case this does come down to the long haul and points being gathered by the objectives, making the difference. So at this point I am talking to Callum over TeamSpeak, and I say to him, look, we need to make a play on B. I know you are shooting at the Megami right now, and that is heading up north. It is heading towards 3 of our ships. Let's not worry about that anymore. Let's get B. So what Callum's going to do at this point is essentially lay down a smoke screen on the centre of B. He will make his way across to the eastern side of the capture point and sit within it, and I will stay on the western side inside the smoke. Now the logic here being, as we said earlier, my Kiev, according to the enemy team, is knocked out the game. It has very little health left, and as a result I would not make risky plays because I know I've only got to take 1 high explosive shell or even 1 armour piercing shell to be knocked out. So if I put myself on the front line in a smoke screen, nobody's going to be expecting that. Or at least that is what we anticipate. And that is what we're going to do here. Now remember, there is an enemy Benson still alive. You will see Callum fire through his torpedoes off to his starboard side at this point. He is trying to anticipate where the Benson will come from to try and defend B, as we would expect the Benson to do so, as they are a very nimble and quite quick destroyer with fast firing guns. If we bump into the Benson, which has just over half its health left, if I remember correctly from earlier, or we're assuming that, the Benson may be able to take us both apart, even with our dual sustained fire. So Callum fires off his torpedoes, and I sit on the western side of the flag, bringing my guns round, and Callum continues to make his way across. Now whether the torpedoes hit or not does not matter. They may hopefully cause the Benson to reconsider their approach. And we take the objective. The smoke screen is up and we are sitting inside it as Callum makes his way out towards the northeastern exit of the flag. And we begin to reverse. We decide, that it is time for us to make our way across the smoke screen as well, as it looks as though the enemy Benson is not charging in. Or at least we would assume that. And what we have to consider at this point is that if the Benson does decide to rush in, we have a lot of torpedoes. We have 2 quintuple tubes with 4 kilometers range as of stock and a 70 knot speed. And if we fire them wide, we may be able to clip the Benson if they come up this way. And sure enough, we've been thinking about the Benson a lot of the time. Very shortly, the Benson is going to appear off to our starboard side as they've been spotted by Callum. And we decide to fire off our torpedoes. Now note, we're not being spotted here, so the Benson does not know that there is a heavily wounded Kiev sitting very close to them. And as the Benson slides around a little bit, trying to avoid potential torpedoes from Callum, he runs into one of our torpedoes, and we're still not spotted. Rather satisfying moment. And with the Benson now eliminated and Callum having taken a couple of light hits, but it means that we're both still in the game, there are only 2 enemy ships left. One is an Iowa, the Tier 9 American battleship, and the other is a battleship which we do not know what it is because we cannot see them on our screen. We just know they're in the southwestern corner of the map. And we just begin to make our way to tail the enemy Iowa. We do not intend to shoot at them because we'd be the only ship within their gun range, or at least spotted by them if we opened fire, and as a result we get eliminated very quickly. So we just want to provide some visibility to our teammates, although we can see that our teammates are shooting at the Iowa right now. And what is rather interesting here and quite funny is that as Callum was making his way across B, his internet cut out. So quite fortunately, with the momentum left on his ship, he was able to drift across B into the position from which he was able to spot the Benson, and the Benson was able to spot his ship. So it worked out in the end. But as we can see here now, our team has all 3 objectives in hand, and we have picked up quite a healthy 36,681 damage in total, a little bit more than we anticipated at the start of the match after what happened. We can feel happy in ourselves as we just tail the Iowa here and provide that visibility at the end of the match. As I say, we do not intend to open fire, but we can make sure that our teammates can drop shells onto the Iowa a lot more easily than they can on our teammates. The enemy battleship in the southwestern corner of the map is going to be eliminated shortly. Again, we cannot provide any visibility on that engagement, unfortunately, for your entertainment, but just take my word on it. And the game comes to its end any second now, I believe. There we go. Time to take a look at the post-game stats. Quite a different gameplay from what we anticipated, but still a victory. And for it we received 127,789 silver credits, 2,400 experience, and 123 experience. Again, to reiterate our battle performance, we picked up a total of 36,681 damage, with 89 target hits, 1 torpedo strike, 4 incapacitations, 1 enemy ship destroyed, i.e. the Benson, 2 fires set, 1 flood caused, and 2 assisted captures. And looking at the team scores, we can see that not only did we recover from a rather nasty start to the match, but we recovered rather well in my opinion, whereby we were able to place second in terms of base experience earned, only being 74 experience points behind first place. Looking at our detailed report, we can see 2 key items of interest today. The first is the number of enemy ships we hit, whereby we hit 7, damaging 6 and destroying 1. This goes to show that in our rather upset state at the start of the match, that we kept calm and carried on, making sure to only focus on targets of opportunity and ones that came across our crosshair, rather than trying to get revenge on, say, the enemy rune that put a lot of damage into us at the start. On top of this, the second point of interest in terms of the damage we dealt with fires, whereby whilst we used our high explosive shells to deal 24,989 damage, we dealt a quarter of this with fires set, whereby we set 2, and with our 8% fire chance on our high explosive shells, we do have the ability quite reliably to cause fires in the long haul. And this means that we can either bleed out the health of battleships in particular, or alternatively make them use up their resources in putting the fires out, and then set subsequent fires. Alternatively, our teammates can, or they can cause flooding, which is going to last the duration. And finally, coming on to our credits and XP, we can see that we walked away with, after deductions, 72,738 credits, and we picked up 2,400 experience because it was our first victory of the day in our Kiev. In conclusion then, hopefully today we've demonstrated how every so often in your destroyers you will have that opening play of the game which just does not work out for you. Whether it be a case of bad luck, a misplay on your part, or being outplayed by the enemy team, you'll find yourself in a crippled ship with very little health to go. You can feel demotivated at this point and just feel like rushing into the enemy fleet and suiciding, so that way you can get into another match and try to cheer yourself up that way. But instead, try to think of it in a calm manner and try to realign your tactics to the situation. We saw today how once we'd broken away from the enemy fleet, we used our Kiev as a mini cruiser for the majority of the rest of the match. And in doing so we gradually built up our damage and actually was able to sneak into a capture point and take an enemy Benson by surprise. It is very likely that a good portion of the enemy team that knew of our existence in our crippled state had written us off. But never write your ship off until it's at the bottom of the sea, because much like marriage, until death do us part, you are still in the fight. And so I've been TX141, and if you've enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and fair seas.